Hello all you whiskey crazed ladies and gents out there. This is Mark from WhiskyWhistle, bringing you whiskey review number 21. We're getting up there. It's November 30th. This is the last day of Movember. Hence I have, tried to shave the chops and left just the mustache there for all its, in all its glory. So hopefully you get a kick out of that. I sure have. Along with all the people that I know have either been disgusted, or they've loved it, or they thought it was neat, or they just couldn't care less. Anyway, whatever reaction you have, I think it's great because it's for a good cause. I've left a note on the WhiskyWhistle YouTube page there for those of you who wish to make a last-minute donation to Movember, and a special thanks to two people. One is Frederick Renink, a longtime friend of mine. He made a donation to Movember on my behalf, and also to Vic Drago out in Texas, who I believe is going to make a donation. Anyway, thanks again to both of you for lending a hand to this great cause. Okay, anyway, onwards to the whiskey. I think you're probably wondering, what are these weird-looking bottles on the podium here on WhiskyWhistle? In fact, these are blended Scotch whiskies, and they're only available here in Korea. At least as far as I know, they're only available here. This is from the huge Korean conglomerate called Lotte. In fact, Lotte Chilsung is the name of the company. They handle all kinds of beverages. Some of their own, and some of them are imported. Anyway, these ones, Scotch Blue is the name of the brand. Sorry, Scotch Blue, and these are made by Angus Dundee in Scotland. So anyway, that's pretty cool. Angus Dundee, if you are wondering, this is a company that handles Glencadam and also Tomintoul. Tomintoul? Ooh, I should have checked that before I opened my mouth. Oh well. Let me know if I've made a mistake there. Anyway, and you can see the pictures rolling through. Those are the two bottles that we're going to be looking at today. And the next should be Angus Dundee. That's their little logo. And then after that, we will see the Glencadam 10-year-old. Here it comes. There it is. And then finally the Tomintoul. That's how I'll say it. I was probably wrong. Tomintoul is coming next. So they are the owners of those two brands. There it is. And also they handle something such as this to make a specialized product for a certain client. Their client being Lotte Chilsung. Now, I only found that out because I had a look at the basic bottle. This is Scotch Blue International. This is their non-age statement standard bottle. And 40% ABV, so this meets the restrictions, the minimum standard for Scotch whiskey to be called Scotch whiskey both in Scotland and other countries in the world. Anyway, matured and blended in Scotland. It may be bottled here, in fact. So that's interesting. And I'm not sure if it being bottled here may actually make it so that it is not eligible to be sold in Scotland with its name on it. But rest assured, this is 100% Scotch whiskey. And then here in the back, in Korean, so it lists the country of origin, which is UK. It lists the importer, which is Lotte Chilsung Beverages. And then after that, a little bit further down the road, where is it? It lists the Jeju-won. Jeju-won is the producer. There it is. And here we see in Korean, Angus Dundee. Angus Dundee. Anyway, so it's Angus Dundee, pronounced in English. So there we have it. That's the maker of this brand. Now, this is one of the most popular selling Scotch whiskies in Korea. It's highly available, highly accessible. You can get it at convenience stores, you can get it at department stores, you can get it in bars, and you can get it in clubs. It is, it's pretty much a standard pricing. It sort of follows the same pricing as Ballantine's or Johnny Walker. So roughly about maybe $50 for a full bottle of the International. The 17-year-old would be close to $100 or maybe a little bit more for a full-size bottle. Now, these are not full-size bottles. They do sell quite a variety of sizes in Korea, so that's good. And, you know, the reason why is that, well, typically when Koreans open up a bottle of whiskey, it gets drunk. They do not keep it, they finish it off. So you better buy the right size bottle for you and your company to make sure that you finish it. So for two people, these are a little bit big for two people for one sitting, I would say, unless you're going to go for a few hours. But let's say 3 or 4 people could probably handle one of these bottles in about 2 or 3 or 4 hours, depending on how fast they drink, depending how big they are. They make smaller bottles for single person or for 2 people, and then larger bottles to meet the standard 700 milliliter. I don't know if they make a liter, but anyway. So let's get into the pouring. We'll start with the basic bottle. Okay, so I think I showed that to you already. And in fact, I did tweet Angus Dundee about this product, and they were very thankful for the contact. To a lot of people in, where am I going to put that one? To a lot of people in Korea who are not Korean, they're really hesitant to buy such a product. And that could be because the company Lotte is most prominently featured on the packaging. And when you look at the box, this is the box for the 17-year-old. There's really no information there, and it's highly repetitious, round and round. So when you look at this, it looks as though it's imported. It is imported. However, the primary consumer is a Korean, and there is not a lick of Korean on there at all, except for this part right here, which says 군납용. So 군납용. So what does that mean? This is for sale only at Army base. This was a gift from a friend and colleague of mine, Julian. Julian, if you are watching, thanks a lot. Okay, anyway, so that was the basic bottle, and I'm going to go ahead and pour a glass of the 17-year-old. Now, Koreans are an industrious type. They are quick to capitalize on good ideas. So hats off to Lotte for recognizing that whiskey was basically the favored hard liquor in Korea, imported as far as, except for soju. That's another story for another day. I'll put these behind maybe. Anyway, so Scotch whiskey is the favorite hard liquor in Korea, and so Lotte Chilsung Beverage Corporation, as well as others, including Diageo for one, the Diageo Korea, and some other operators here have basically done the same thing. They buy in bulk from Scotland, and then it's packaged and marketed specifically for the Korean market. And many other countries do that too. Anyway, so if you're watching this and you're in Korea, please do not shy away from this brand. It's a good quality brand. I was quite surprised when I opened this one. and tasted it. I was blown away. I was expecting to be disappointed, and I wasn't. In fact, I was rather delighted with it. So let's start with that international, because the 17-year-old will leave that in the glass a little bit longer. And the perfumey nature of these whiskeys is already filling the air here in my home. So I can smell it from here, boy. So one of the things that I notice when I smell this is it has a real Highland character, as well as some sweeter notes, which may lend to the Speyside end of things. And in fact, Tomintoul, anyway, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Tomintoul is from Speyside. In fact, you'll see the word Glenlivet on the bottle. So that doesn't mean that it's associated with the Glenlivet brand. It just happens to be in proximity to the Glenlivet, the valley of the River Livet. Okay. Very perfumey, a little bit of peat. Now they try to say that it's not peated. In fact, it is slightly, but not to the extent of a Johnny Walker or even of a Ballantine's. I'm going to refer to my notes here. The grain note is very minor. So you'll be taken aback at the complexity in the glass. So even for an entry-level blended Scotch whiskey, it has a very nice nose to it. So there's some honey on there. I mentioned the floral notes, a little bit of raisins, and then in time you'll get some salted caramel and some oak notes. If you go really deep into the glass, there's a slight little bit of, let's say, unpolished character. I don't want to say it's rough, but it's not quite polished. And, well, let's remind ourselves that this is probably quite young in terms of the youngest whiskey in the glass. So that may be 5 to 8 years old. Quite nice. Now, today happens to be St. Andrew's Day. Although I'm not Scottish, I do have Ukrainian descent, and St. Andrews is also the patron saint of Ukraine and Poland. And I've got about a quarter Polish and a quarter Ukrainian in my bloodline. The other half is mostly Danish. In fact, pretty much entirely. Apparently some Spanish, but that's way, way, way back at the time of the Inquisition. So we're talking pretty much non-existent. Although the Spanish in my blood may have given me the unibrow that I have to tend to on a weekly basis. Okay, so let's give that a taste. It's very sweet. There's some sweet grain notes, some sweet malt notes, honey as well. There's some spice in there, and I want to say that it's cinnamon. There's a bit of a young spirit flavor, and then a little bit of that older whiskey flavors. Some leather is also coming through there. And I thought about this. I can also smell a little bit of leather too. And what I thought about this was that Glencadam, Tomintoul, they're not exactly highly popular single malts, at least not yet. They're having a little bit of a renaissance, I would say. Angus Dundee looks like they're headed towards a craft sort of expression, craft packaging. Can't think of an appropriate word. they're turning towards the craft end of whiskey with those brands. So that's good. But what I think happens when you have a company like Lotte who can sell a lot of whiskey here, and they want to offer a good product. So I have a feeling that there are some older Glencadam and Tomintoul whiskies that are included in this blend, especially the Glencadam, because I feel like the floral notes, which may come from sort of a kind of like a hay-like nature, seems to be a little bit more towards the Highland end of the Scotch whiskey sort of basic flavors. Stumbled a little over that one. The finish is a little bit dry. Let me just check that one more time. A little dry, and it's got a nice sourness to it. So the flavors on the palate, when you taste it, are sweet, and after you swallow, you're left with some sourness. Still sweet, a little bit sweet there, but more on the sour end of things. And what I wrote here was apple seeds. So a little bit of astringency as well, and some dryness. With the Scotch Blue International, the finish is not very long. Shirt's a bit long for me. Okay, so I put a little bit of water in there. We'll let that sit. You don't really need to put much water. It does have a potent flavor profile, so you may find that with water you'll get a little bit more complexity. We'll see that in a minute. Let's have a look at the 17-year-old now. We didn't talk much about the color. It's really nice that the bottles are green because there's really not a lot of caramel added, if any. There may not be. If so, there is only a slight amount. So again, Lotte Chilsung Beverage Corporation, if you're watching, I doubt you are, but you never know. You've done a good job with this one. I think that I think there could be some opportunities for maybe better marketing, because I really don't see a lot of marketing, especially not aimed at well, the huge expat community that lives here. So you've got about 2 million people here who really don't know anything about this brand, and if they did, you may see a pretty steep increase in sales with a bit of promotion. And it's much more floral, in fact, the 17-year-old. And the leather note is more prominent, so it looks like they put a little more of the Glencadam in there, I do believe. Of course, I say this, and I've never actually had Glencadam. I'm assuming so based on the fact that that is a little bit more of a Highland note than a Speyside. Even the nose now has a bit of a sour, sweet sour sort of a tone to it, and if you wait, you'll find some nice sweet caramel coming through as well. So more floral, less peat. In fact, I mentioned the peat in the International. So let's try that one. Happy St. Andrew's Day to all the Scots watching. I don't think there's very many, but you never know. And if you're from Ukraine or Poland and you're tuning in, happy St. Andrew's Day to you as well. Cheers, everyone. The grain note now is almost non-existent. So this drink's much more like a malt whiskey. It's dry. There's unripe pear, dried apricot, honey, and a raspberry note also. And I still taste a little bit of a nice Italian leather in there as well. The finish is medium sweet. It's quite a bit longer. And it still has a really nice sourness to it. So it's got a good tang. You know, as raspberries have, don't they? Okay, let's add a little bit of water into 17-year-old. It's a little awkward the way I've set this up. There. And I'm going to put this just a little drop more. Believe it or not, again, I mentioned that the intensity of the flavor, you can comfortably take this down to 30% ABV and still have a very flavorful whiskey to drink. I should have a little bit of water. The sweet sourness, quite long lasting with a 17-year-old. So interesting. Spilled that all over myself. Goodness. Oh well. Mark. Okay, back to the International. The caramel really comes alive with water. It's much more sweet. The peat has dissipated, and it always seems to happen with water. Still florals as well. So floral and caramel. And the unpolished note also is rather indetectable. Okay, let's try that. Let me take a little bit more. For some reason, the mouthfeel picks up quite a bit with water in the International. So I quite like that with water. More cinnamon, more honey, and a slight coffee note, especially in the nose, as I wrote here, and coming through a little bit in the flavors. And again, I've swallowed it. It's gone. I still have a bit of sourness and a bit of astringency left in my mouth. So even though the other flavors are quite short in length, but that part is quite long lasting. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? I wonder if that could be related to the freshness of the casks, perhaps. Using really good active casks that have a lot of their own elements left in the wood, interacting with the spirit, and then you're left with some tannins that really remain in your mouth quite a while after you drink it. So my final notes for the International: it's well balanced. It's got a rather high malt content for an opening price point blended Scotch whiskey. The finish is a little weak, but overall I really do like it. And this one will get 77 out of 100. Now, you may be wondering, oh, that's the lowest score you've given. Sure it is. And why would that be? I think mainly the aspect of that is the finish and a little bit of the roughness, which I called unpolished character in the nose, was one of the factors. And based on recent discussions, some people who do whiskey reviews, it seems as though their lowest but the lowest score that they feel that something is passable is 80. And I think that that's a bit high. I think that 7 out of 10, 70%, I think that is also something that is worth buying. On a star system, that's 3.5 stars out of 5. So look at all the movies that you've seen and that you enjoyed, and how many of them were 3 stars out of 5 or 3.5. Anyway, so I did put 80 at first, and then I scratched it out and put 77. After I thought about the finish and that slightly underpolished character in the nose. Okay, so how about the 17-year-old with water? And this one I do like quite a bit more. Oh, I can see the water still hasn't mixed throughout it. Maybe I should give that a little bit of agitation. Again, generally you don't want to really stir it up, but to get the water mixed through, you may want to do that once or twice, and then go back to just gentle rolling in the glass. And now the bouquet is absolutely hugely floral. Still a bit of sour character in there. Sour, I should say tart perhaps. Tart's a little bit kinder than sour, isn't it? So a tart floral character. And I wrote here big florals. And I think, well, I'm really excited about that. I do like things that taste florally, floral-esque, as a lot of Korean greens do, in fact. Okay. Oh. There's a sweetness in there too, and this is more of the raspberry that I was talking about in the International, and that was in the taste. Now I'm smelling raspberry here in the 17-year-old. Interesting. Okay, let's taste that one with water now. Sweet like honey. It's got some raspberry tones in there. The leather's still in the background. It's more sour than sweet. And I'm just picking this up now. There's a slight honeydew note in there, ripe honeydew. Wow. This is much more flavorful than I had initially noted down. So I better add that. My pen fell on the floor there. I'll leave that for later. Honeydew. Interesting. So honey, raspberry, tart rather than sweet, and some honeydew character. On the finish, you're left with honeydew and that sour sweetness, and the dryness as well. My notes for this one, I wrote that it's more complex, big florals, long-lasting astringency, and now this honeydew note that I've picked up. So that's quite interesting. So I better bump this up a point. I initially wrote 83, but give it some time and you'll really enjoy that. So I think we're going to go up to 84 for this one, okay? Can I reach that? Yep. Okay. Before I forget. 84 out of 100, and honeydew on the taste and also in the finish. Lovely. So that's been Scotch Blue from Lotte Chilsung here in Korea. I'm not sure if it's available elsewhere. Perhaps it is. I think that Lotte Chilsung could probably export this somehow under this particular label of Scotch Blue. I think that it could do well. It would probably cost a lot in terms of the marketing that would be needed, but you know, definitely Japan and some of the other Asian countries I think would really warm up to this one, as well as all of the Western folk or Australians or Russians who enjoy whiskey that are you know, residing here in Korea and other Asian countries. I'm sure that you would enjoy this as well. Anyway, so that's 2 whiskeys today. Scotch Blue International, 77 out of 100, and Scotch Blue 17-year-old, 84 out of 100. And, well, I'd love to hear your comments. Again, this is from Angus Dundee. They're the makers of this whiskey, of course, in concert with Lotte Chilsung, who would have maybe suggested what they wanted to accomplish as far as a taste profile. So if I had a hat, I would take my hat off to Angus Dundee. Great work with that one. Also to Lotte Chilsung. Wonderful job. Happy St. Andrew's Day, everybody. And we'll see you again for Whiskey Review number 22. And that will be a single malt whiskey from Scotland, a Scottish single malt, Scotch single malt. And it has the letter B in it. So there's a little bit of a, well, a spoiler, not quite, a cliffhanger, if you will. So tune in next time and take care and have a great week.